Where are we? What are we doing here? Ooh. Okay. Gewaldig. What's this? What do I mean? Gewaldig. Oh, Geschmack. Okay. Okay. How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're starting Daf Nun Dalet. Daf 54 of Masechta BavaBasra. Friends, Gewaldig, Chaver. We're moving on in the sugya of chazaka. Not the kind of chazaka that's in lieu of a shtar, in lieu of a proof of sale. Rather, a chazaka that makes a kinyan. So yesterday, we talked about that you can make a kinyan with a chazaka by making an improvement to the property. You put up a fence. You make a breach that people can come in and out. Put it on locks. Right? So you make some kind of improvement to the field. That's what we discussed yesterday. Today, we're going to talk about how you could also make a chazaka on a field by having the field service you. That's another way, and we're going to talk about that in this on this daf. I think that's the main thing, maybe. All right, let's do it. So it says the Gemara on daf Nun Gimel Amud Beis, about 5 or so lines before it gets wide. Nun Gimel Amud Beis. Omer Ramam, you got it? Says Ramam, Hay Milsa Omer Lord Rav Sheshes. Rav Sheshes told us the following thing. Ve'anorinu la'aynin mimas nisa, and he, I guess, brought a proof for it from a Mishnah, from a Brisa. Amatzir matzos benichse ager kono. That if somebody puts out mats on the property of a proselyte, so if a proselyte passes away and his property is hefker because he has no heirs, so how do you make a chazaka on that property? So you can put up a fence, but another way is to put out mats and to have a picnic, because you're going to be lying on the property. You're lying down on it, and the property is supporting you. By you're kind of showing ownership over the property by it supporting you. Let's go weiter. And he kind of backed this up with a brisa. Maihi, what is it? The Tanya is within a brisa. Ketzad b'chazaka. How do you acquire an eved by a chazaka? If you want to acquire an eved by making a chazaka on the eved, like a kinyan chazaka on an eved, what would that entail? No alo min alo. For example, if the eved, an eved kanani, puts a shoe on the fellow, right? So basically, the eved is servicing the adon, and by doing so, that is a chazaka. So the adon is not making an improvement to the eved. The eved is doing something for the adon. Or he untied his shoe. Of the base hamerchotz, or he he was carrying his clothing for him to the bathhouse. Vivshito, or he took off the adon's clothing. Verchitzo, he bathed him. Sacho, put on oils. Gerdo, I guess scratched him or something. Vilbisho, put on his clothing. Vinilo, put on his shoes. Vegbio, or if the eved picked up the adon, maybe had to pick him up and put him on his bed or something, whatever it is. Kano, so then the adon is kona the eved by a kinyan chazaka. Reb Shimon says Reb Shimon lo tei chazaka gedola me hagba, that hagba is the best type of chazaka. Shagba kona b'chol makom, because hagba is kona everywhere. My comment, what's Reb Shimon saying? Hachikom, this is what it means. Higbio l'rabo kano. Okay, so if the eved picks up the adon, right? So he's doing something on behalf of the adon. So then the adon is kona the eved by the eved doing that for him. Higbio rabo lo. But if the adon picks up the eved and makes like a kinyan agba on the eved, well then no, lo kano. He's not kona the eved that way, because kinyan agba is for metaltalin, right? Not for people, not for avodim. So says the Tanakama that the adon would be unable to be kone the eved by picking up the eved. Reb Shimon responds and he says, Lo te chazaka gedolak me'agba. What do you mean? What do you mean? So Rashbam, there's actually a nice Rashbam here. Should we read the Rashbam together? It's not like a 100-line Rashbam, it's a 2-line Rashbam. The wide lines, but should we read it? Why not? So it's the last Rashbam on the Yomud. Lotei chazaka tehinil v'hilbish v'hirchitz. So those chazakas of the Eved putting on shoes putting the Adon's shoes on him, v'hilbish, or getting him dressed, v'hirchitz, or bathing him, v'hivshit, or taking off his clothing for him, gedola me'agbas rav le'eved. Those chazakas, there's no reason why those should be more of a chazaka than the Adon picking up the Eved. Vikana Rav le'Eved, and the Adon will be kona the Eved that way. That it's kona b'chol makom. You can make a kinyan in places where you can make a kinyan agba. You can make a kinyan agba anywhere. Meaning when you could, let's say you want to be kona a piece of pizza or something b'agba, so you could do that anywhere. Even in the rishus of the seller, which is not the case by pulling or mesira or handing over. You can be kona kinyan agba anywhere. So therefore, so Reb Shimon says the adon picking up the eved would oichit be a proper kinyan because you have putting on shoes and taking off shoes is a kinyan. Certainly picking up, which is a kinyan. That is sort of a global kinyan. So certainly Reb Shimon argues an adon can be kona an eved by picking up the eved. Reb Yirmiyah says, Reb Yirmiyah Beira Reb Yehuda Haiman dishada lifta beipile de'ara deger. So if you have a proselyte who passes away, and somebody wants to be kona his property, and the property of the proselyte has cracks in the earth, and he takes some turnip seeds, I guess. What's a turnip? I don't know. It's some kind of I guess, is a turnip like a radish? What's the other thing that a parsnip? That's what I was thinking. Parsnip. No. A turnip is like a kind of radish. Is it like a white-looking radish? Maybe. I don't know. Or is it red? Could it be red or white? What's a turnip? Does it look more like a beet? Is it bigger than a radish? Some radishes can be big. Or maybe are the big radishes turnips? Oh, did I buy a turnip? Maybe I bought a turnip. When was that? At one point I was like buying what I thought were radishes, but they were big. I thought I was just getting big radishes. Maybe I bought turnips. I don't know. What's a turnip? All right, Akoponim. So if you have somebody who wants to be kona the property of a proselyte, so the shada lifta beipile the ara de ger, and he throws some turnips into the cracks in the earth of the geshturbin proselyte. Loi have chazake. So that would not be a chazaka. That's not a chazaka. Why should it be a chazaka? You're not improving the land. You didn't like, so as Rashbam points out, if you would plant a turnip in the ground, that's one thing, right? You're digging up a hole, you're putting in the turnip, you're then covering it up again. If you plant it, okay, you're making an improvement to the ground. But just to kind of chuck something into a crack in the ground, you didn't do anything to improve that. That's not improving the land. Okay, over time, maybe it'll grow on its own, but you're not digging, you're not improving, you're not doing epis. So my time, how come be'idna deshada le'ave shvach? At the time that you just chuck the turnip into the crack in the ground, you're not improving the land at that right there at the property in any way at that time. And then maybe eventually it'll grow into epis. That kind of happened on its own after you just chucked it in, but you didn't improve the land. You didn't do anything to the land to improve it. Okay. Okay, so if somebody like prune, so I don't know if pruning is the right nomenclature for a date tree, a palm tree, but if you like, I guess removing some of the branches from the tree, so but meaning in order to make it grow better, So it depends. So again, Amar Shmuel, Haman defashach dikla. So if somebody wants to make a kinyan chazaka on a palm tree, and he, I'm just going to say prunes the branches. It might not be the right word, but like pruning kind of means, I guess, whatever you prune, the point is you remove like branches so that the other branches could grow starker and it becomes a healthier tree. So if you're pruning a palm tree, so if you're pruning it in order to improve the palm tree, so you can make a kinyan chazaka, you're making an improvement to the palm tree. But if you're cutting down the trees so that the branches so you can, feed them to your animals or something, do something for the animals. What is it? Alright, to feed them. Okay. I don't know, what are you feeding them? The branches? I assume not. I don't know. What are you feeding them? The dates? I don't know. Anyways, whatever. If you're cutting down these branches for your animals, so not to make an improvement to the tree, well then, lo kani. Well then you're not kona because you're not intending to improve the tree. You're not making a kinyan chazaka, which is an improvement. Hey chidami. So what do we know? So how would you know if it's an improvement or not? Shakol mehagis or mehagis adai tediklu. So if you remove, one second, is there noise coming from somewhere? 1 second. Oh, is that my neighbor? I think that's my neighbor. Interesting. Okay, I think it's my neighbor. I don't know what she's doing. She's doing something noisy. Anyways. So where am I? Also, how do we know if it's improving the tree or not? So, so if you're sort of being equal with all the branches, you take a branch from here, a branch from there, you spread it out, well then, adaita de dikla. So you're doing it to improve the palm tree. Okay, you're spreading it out. But if you're, removing all the branches from one side, well then you're just doing it to feed your animals, and then it is not to improve the palm tree, and since you're not improving the palm tree, so that way you can't make a kinyan chazaka that way. If somebody is like, cleaning up a field, he's cleaning up a field, there's a bunch of wood and broken branches and chvaisvos on the field, and he's kind of cleaning it up. So if it's to improve the land, so givaldig is kone. Lo kani. But if he's doing it because he wants to collect firewood, but not to improve the land at all, so then he can't be kone with a kinyan chazaka because he's not improving the land. Hey chidami. So how do we discern if it's to improve the land or not? Shakal ravreve vizutre. So if he picks up all of the wood, the big chunks and the small splinters and things, so adaita de'ara. So then he's picking up everything. It's to clean up the land and improve the land, make it easier to plow. Shakal ravreve vishavak zutre. But if he takes the big stuff and leaves the small stuff, well, he's clearly only interested in the big stuff, in the firewood. Well, then he's not improving the land. His intention is not to improve the land. So if he's not improving the land, you can't make a kinyan chazaka that way. Adaita de tzive, it's only he has the firewood in mind. Shmuel, Haiman de askil tikla. All right. So if somebody was, how do you define askil tikla? There is the askil tikla meisir machsholo, so mashu pnei karka. So also you have a land, and let's go weiter. Adaita de ira kani, adaita de veidari lo kani. Okay, he's doing something to the land. If he's doing it to improve the land, so you can make a kinyan chazaka. If it's to make what's the veidari? Like a granary or something? Lo kani, then he's not konei chidami. How do we discern? So shakal mulya v'shada binatza. Okay, so if you have like a land, and there's like holes in the land, there's like piles of dirt and there's holes and things. So if he takes the piles and he's throwing the dirt from the piles into the holes and flattening out and smoothing out and evening out the land that way, well, he's doing it daita da'ara in order to improve the land and make it ready for plowing. So then he can make a kinyan chazaka that way. Mulya b'mulya v'notza b'notza. But if he's not taking the mounds and throwing the dirt into the holes, rather, he's like taking the mound and just kind of like, trying to just, make it like, take the dirt from the top and put it around the sides, and if you have a hole, so you'll take kind of like, dig from the sides of the hole and throw it into the hole. You're just kind of like lowering the piles and making shallower the holes, but not like, a comprehensive flattening of the land to make it ready for plowing. Well, then it's adaita de vedari. You're just doing it so that I guess you can have like a grain, maybe like I think it's like a threshing area or something. In which case you're not doing it to improve the land. You're doing it to be able to thresh wheat. So if that's the case, then you would be unable to make a kinyan chazaka that way. Haman de pasach maya be'ara. So if somebody opens up a water source onto land, right? So now the land becomes flooded with water. Adaita da'ara koni. If he does it in order to improve the land, so you can make a kinyan chazaka that way. Adaita dekavi, but if you're doing it just so that you can catch fish that way, so lo kani, then you can't be kona the property of the kinyan chazaka that way. Echidami, how do we know if it's for the land or for the fish? So pasach trey bave chad ma'ayel v'chad mapik aris adaita dekavi. So if he's opening up on one side and the other side, meaning so that water can come in on one side of the field and then be drained out on the other side of the field. So he's not looking to irrigate the field. He's looking so that any fish that are going to come through are going to get stuck. Going to drain out all the water, and then you're going to have a bunch of fish flopping around on the land, and that way you have fresh fish to eat. So if that's the case, you don't have the improvement of the land in mind. So then you cannot be kona with the kinyan chazaka that way. But echad bava adaita dai. But if he only opens up one water opening so that the water can come into the land, but has no way to leave the land, and that way it'll just kind of settle and sink into the land and irrigate the land, well then it's to improve the land, and you can make a kinyan chazaka that way. There was a woman who was eating from a palm tree for 13 years, and she would she would prune the branches for 13 years. But she was not improving the tree because she was taking all the branches from one side. It wasn't to improve the tree. Also, a certain fellow came, Rafik Tuse Porte, and he dug a shtickle under the tree, and by doing that, he kind of made an improvement to it by digging around it, and that way he was kona the tree b'chazaka. So I guess this was talking about nichse ager. So also the kame de Levi. So now the case came before Levi. V'amrei la kame de Marukva. Some say before Marukva. Ukme biyode. And they said it belongs to the fellow who dug under the tree, even though she had been pruning the tree for 13 years, because she didn't make an improvement to the tree and he did. So asoi katzavcha kame. And she was obviously upset. And she was saying, what's going on over here? I was here for 13 years. So Amar Lo, and Marukva or Levi says to her, "My avidlach, what can I do? To lo achzikas kidemachzike insha. You didn't make a proper chazaka. The halacha is you didn't make a proper chazaka, and he did. So the field goes to Janine. I remember. I think that we had Janine. We have to look up in the Sugi sisters archives. I think that there was Taka. Janine, we have to look up in the Sugi sisters archives. Janine. We'll look up in the Sugi sisters archives. I think that there was an Erevin. Either this, I didn't look it up. Either this exact Gemara or a very similar Gemara. And I think that you made a post about it on Sugi sisters. So Janine, we're gonna have to look it up and we're gonna have to dig it up. We'll try to find it. I think that one was with Rav Nachman. For some reason I thought over there in Erevin it was Rav Nachman. But we'll look up and we'll clarify everything and we'll dig it up. All right? We'll dig it up. We'll dig it up, right? Just like the fellow did under the tree. He dug the tree and make a kinyan chazaka. We'll make a kinyan chazaka on that Facebook post. Ooh, Janine, if I make the kinyan, if I dig it up first, then it's mine. Oh, Janine, you better run. You better run. Oh, the irony. Oh, the irony. The irony. It was your post for 3 years, and I come and I dug it up, and now it's mine. Oh, you better run. Rab, says Rab, Hatzar Tzura, Benichse Ager, if somebody makes a drawing benichse ager. So kono, so I guess if it has a house, you make like a beautiful painting of like but like an animal or something like that. So then he's kone dirab lo koni le ginosa de verab ele bitsurasa de bitsurta. I guess by the Beis Hamedrash, by Rav's Beis Hamedrash, I guess there was like a nichse ager or something, and he was koned by being by like making a picture or something like that. And I think Rashbam says in this case, if you make like a picture of like an animal or something, then it wouldn't even need to be like a tefach or something. All right. Itmar, it was stated. Soda Musuyemis b'meitzarel. So if you have a field that is surrounded by borders, Omar. By some kind of borders, demarcations. I don't know if it necessarily has to be like a fence or something, but definitely there's like some kind of demarcation surrounding it. So Amar Rav Huna Amar Rav, Kevin shehikish ba makosh echad kanakula. So if you have this demarcated property, so how do you make a kinyan chazaka? If you dig even just a shtickle with like a hoe or something, you dig a shtickle and you're kona the gans field. No, you're only kone the small little area that you dug up. That is it. Whatever you dug up, you're kone, but not the rest of the field. And if there are no borders around it, no boundaries around it, so then adkama. So according to Rav, who had said that when there are boundaries around it, if you dig up a shtickle, so you kone the ganze zach. So then what about when there's no boundaries? According to Rav, how could you be kona the whole thing? So ad kama omer Rav Papa says Rav Papa the ozel tayara deshore v'hadra, that if you have a pair of oxen and they're plowing and they would go from one end all the way to the other end and then come back and then back again in two different rows. So they would go like, up one way or to the end and then turn around but not come back on the same exact path, do the next row next to it. So do two rows of plowing from one end to the next, right? From, the northern side to the southern side, they turn around and do the next row from the southern side back up to the northern side. Then they are, or from east to west. So then they are kone the entire area. Okay. Fine. Omar Revuda Omar Shmuel says Revuda Omar Shmuel Nichse Oved Kochov Maren Kemidbar Kol HaMachzik Boin Zocha Boin. So this is talking about a scenario, according to the Rashbam, where so you have an Oved Kochov, he owns a property. Okay, fine. So now when the Yid pays the Oved Kochavim for the property, so it's no longer belongs to the Oved Kochavim. But it doesn't officially belong to the Yid until the Oved Kochavim writes him a document and gives the Yid the document, the proof of sale. So there's this sort of middle ground, this middle space where the Oved Kochavim has already received the property, the money. So the property no longer belongs to the Oved Kochavim, but the Yid the buyer has not yet received the Shtar Mechira. So it doesn't yet belong to him until he not only pays but also receives the shtar mechira. So it's in limbo, a shtickle. So again, Amar Revuda Amar Shmuel Nichse Oved Kochavim. So you have this property belonging to Oved Kochavim that the Yid who's buying it from him already paid the Oved Kochavim for the property. So, but the Yid hasn't yet received the document. Haren Kemidbar, it's just like a desert. It's hefker. Kol HaMachzik Boin Zocha Boin. And if a third party now comes and he makes a chazaka, a kinyan chazaka. Let's say he digs a shtickle, it belongs to the third party. My time, how come? Oved Kochavim chimati zuze liyadeh, because Oved Kochavim, once he received the money, istalik lei, so he no longer owns the property. He received payment for it, he received the money, it's no longer his, but Yisrael lokani ad dimati shtar liyadeh. But the Yid, the buyer, only becomes the owner of it, only acquires it once he receives a document of the sale. Hilkach, therefore, Harein Kimidbar, in this in-between period, they are like the desert, they're hefker, and the property is hefker, and if a third party comes and chaps it arayin and makes a chazaka, so it belongs to the third party. Whoever machziks it, he becomes the owner of it. Did Shmuel really say this? Did Shmuel really say that a third party would be able to come and scoop it up? But But Shmuel says, Dina de Malchusa Dina. But Shmuel says, what about Dina de Malchusa Dina? That the laws of the land are the law. That the laws of the land are the law. Umalko Amar, and the king says, the law of the land is, Lo likne ara ela be'igrisa. That property is only acquired via a document. And therefore, even though maybe according to halacha, once the Nachri receives the money, then it's already considered a kinyan, and it no longer belongs to the Nachri. But the law of the land is, right? The king's law is that a kinyan requires a shtar. So if that's the right dina de malchusa dina, if that's the law of the land, that's the law of the land, and that's what we go by. And therefore, if the law of the land that the kinyan needs a shtar, well then that means that until the yid who purchased the property receives the document of the shtar mecher, the sale document, well, until that point, then it still belongs to the oved kochavim. So how can this third party come and take it? It belongs to the oved kochavim at that point. So Amar Lei, so Rav Yosef responds to Abaye's kasha. Where am I? So Amar Lei, Ano lo yadaina elo uvda hava bedora de reusa. Rather says Rav Yosef, look, I don't know, but I'll tell you this. There was once a ma'aseh that happened in a place called Dora de Reusa. B'yisodus of an Arab of a Kochavim, who's punked this case that the Yid had purchased property from Oved Kochavim. V'osi Yisrael Achrina, right? He already paid the Oved Kochavim, but the Yid hadn't yet received the document, and now a third party Yid comes, Rafik Bapurta, and he digs a shtickle on the property, Also, the comment of Yehuda, and the case came from before Rav Yehuda, and Rav Yehuda was a student of Shmuel. It says the Rashbam. What does Rashbam say? Also, the comment of Yehuda, V'rov Maisav Shama Mishmuel Rabbo. And most of Rav Yehuda's, I guess it says Maisav, his actions, but if Rav Yehuda is giving a psak halacha, Mistam, it's also the psak. It's the psak that he heard from Shmuel. And therefore, basically, what we can assume that the psak that Rav Yehuda gives would be in line with Shmuel's psak. Ukma biyada disheni, and sure enough, Rav Yehuda said that it belongs to the third party. So Abaye, you're asking me, what about Dina de Malchusa Dina? It's taka good kasha, but I can tell you this: there was once a ma'aseh in Rav Yehuda paskin that it belongs to the third party, that it's hefker, even though the buyer didn't yet receive a document. And it belongs to a third party. So, and for the fact that Rav Yehuda passing that way, Mistama, that's the opinion of Shmuel. So Amar Lei. So Abaye responds, wait. Don't bring me a proof from that Maisa. Amar Lei, Dora de Reusa, aren't you talking about Dora de Reusa? Hasam over there, Bage mitamre havu. The land that was being purchased from the Nachri was land that the Nachri didn't pay the property taxes on. The inu gufayu lo havu yave taske limalka, that the Oved Kochavim who was selling the property wasn't paying his property tax. Umalka Omar, and the halacha is not the halacha. The law is in the land. The king says, "Man diyorev taska lechol ara," that if you pay the property tax, then the land belongs to you. And if you don't pay the property tax, well then it's not your property. And this Oved Kochavim was not paying the property tax. So in that particular case, the Oved Kochavim wasn't paying the property tax, so it doesn't belong to the Oved Kochavim. That's the law of the land. And therefore it was hefker to begin with. It wasn't even the Oved Kochavim's to sell to the buyer, because the Oved Kochavim wasn't paying property tax. So it wasn't even his. So comes a third party and scoops it up. He makes a chazaka on it and he says, I'm going to pay the property tax. Well, that's why it belongs to him. But otherwise, if it was a case where the Oved Kochavim was paying the property tax, and therefore it did belong to him, and he's selling it to this other Yid, well, yeah, the law of the land is that the sale would only be finalized once there's a document. And in that case, until the Yid receives the document, it still belongs to Oved Kochavim. And when the Yid receives the document, it belongs to him. There's no room there in that, therefore, for a third party in that case to be able to come and scoop it up, so long as the Oved Kochavim was paying his property tax. Ravuna Zav and Arame Oved Kochavim. Ravuna purchased a property from an Oved Kochavim, and he paid him for it. Also Yisrael, but he hadn't yet received a document. Also Yisrael, Acher, and then came a third party Yid. Rafik Bapurta, he dug the land of Shtickle. Also the Kamid of Nachman, they came for Rav Nachman Ukma Biyadeh, and Rav Nachman says it belongs to the third party that Rav Huna loses, doesn't get the property. Amalei, Rav Huna says to Rav Nachman, my daitech, how come you're saying that it belongs to the third party? Is it because Shmuel said that in this scenario where the Oved Kochavim has been paid but not yet written a shtar, so it's hefker and anybody can take it? So that's why he's saying that it belongs to a third party and not to me. But Shmuel. But why don't you then do like the other opinion of Shmuel? The Amr Shmuel says, Shmuel lo kana ela makom makosher bavad. We said at the end of Nun Daled Amud Aleph that according to Shmuel, when you dig a shtickle, you're only kona the shtickle that you dug. So if that's the case, why are you giving the whole field to this third party? You only give him the shtickle that he dug. That he only acquires that shtickle. On my lay, so Rav Nachman says, well, behai, with regarding to that halacha, on a kishmaitin, what's the kishmai teich svirle? Svirle says Rav Nachman, well, there I talk hold like you, Rav Huna, right? Because it was Rav Huna who said the name Rav. The Amar Rav Huna Amar Rav, as we said at the end of Nun Daled Amud Aleph, kim shenichesh ba makosh echad kana kula. That once you dig a shtickle, you make a kinyan on the whole thing. So therefore, if Nachman passing it belongs to this third party, Mistama, the way I understand it is Mistama, it's talking about a scenario where the Oved Kochavim wasn't paying the property tax. So therefore, it wasn't the Oved Kochavim even to sell, because he wasn't paying the tax on it. Came this third party, scooped it up, and once he digs a shtickle, so he already acquires the whole thing. That was Daf Nun Daled, Masechta BavaBasra. Daf Nun Daled was Givaldig, because every daf is of course Givaldig, Baruch Hashem. But Oichit, we talked about Chazaka Shtakamor, and we opened a new sort of aspect of the Chazaka. One aspect of the Chazaka we talked about yesterday, you make an improvement to the property. The other one is that the property can serve you, right? Just like if an Eved picks up his Adon, so the Adon is Koneim through that service. So also, if you spread out, you make a picnic on the ground, you lie down, you spread out mats, and you lie down on the mats, so then Oichit, the land is serving you, and you're kona that way. And we saw this machlokas Rav and Shmuel about if you just dig a shtickle on the land, are you kona the whole land? Rav says you'd be kona with that the whole land. Shmuel says you'll only be kona the part that you dug up. That was that Nun Daled Masechta BavaBasra. Hope you enjoyed. Peace out.